You know, following many of these mass shootings that end in suicide with the shooter taking his own life, we tend to hear the question that if the shooter was going to take his own life in the end anyway, why did he have to take away so many innocent people with him? Well, tonight we get some insight from a psychologist, from a writer who focuses in on the subject, and from the FBI analysis of the shooter. Newtown, Connecticut, Roseburg, Oregon, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sutherland Springs, Texas, Thousand Oaks, California. Just a few of the dozens of mass shootings in the U.S. that, like the FedEx tragedy in Indianapolis, ended with the suicide of the shooter.
I mean, obviously, we've heard about a lot of different kind of mass shootings around the country, but when it's that immediate, it's certainly shocking for all of us to think about.
Dr. Edward Hurt is a professor in the IU Department of Psychological and Brain Sciences who specializes in social psychology, social identity, and mood effects. We spoke about suicidal murder, a term used in the FBI's reports determining the motive behind Brandon Hull's rampage at the Indianapolis FedEx facility.
If you think about somebody really having suicidal ideations and sort of deciding, okay, I'm seriously contemplating ending my life, what was the purpose of my life? What was my meaning? What was the reason for my existence? And I think many of us are searching for that in our lives.
In a few of those cases of suicide, we see someone who wants to look for a bigger way to exit this world, to send the world a message.
Columnist Petula Dvorak writes for The Washington Post. She focused on a number of topics related to mass shootings, including a link to suicide.
That's a uniting factor, is pain and wanting the world to feel that same pain and understand that same pain.
The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit concluded though Brandon Hull no longer worked at the Indianapolis FedEx facility, he was not motivated by revenge and was not trying to advance an ideology. Rather, the FBI report said, quote, the shooter decided to commit suicide in a way he believed would demonstrate his masculinity and capability while fulfilling a final desire to experience killing people.
But I think that that's a fair motive that you see quite often is men who are struggling with their place in society, with their mark on society, with where they stand and how masculine they are in a society that might not be the same place where their fathers and their grandfathers grew up.
Being in a situation where you feel powerful and you have a weapon and people are afraid of you and they do what you say, maybe that's enough to make somebody feel like, okay, I've done what I needed to do, and now I can go out.
Both Petula Dvorak and Dr. Ed Hurt stressed there are warning signs to watch for. In her research, Dvorak learned many suicidal mass shooters shared a common trait.
A lot of mass shooters had some kind of a record of domestic violence. And that shows a person who's struggling to assert themselves, struggling to find power.
Such was the case with Brandon Hull, who investigators say had frequent suicidal thoughts and had physically abused his mother.
I think as a community have to be more attentive to the people around us a little bit and realize that a lot of people are struggling, but not dismiss it as just something that's not my problem.
Now, earlier this week, we did speak to the shooter's mother, Sheila Hull, who told us about the multiple pathways she tried to use to get help for her son. Now she's focused on helping the families of the victims.